Hello everyone. In this video we are going to examine Rebol data types, and there are a lot of them, so we're not going to be able in this short video to do examples on all of them, but I just want to show you what they are, how you can get a list of them and explore them some more on your own, as well as give some examples of some common ones. So with that said, let's get started. Fire up the interpreter. So in past videos, we have looked at a few Rebol data types: integers, decimals. We looked at a URL and a tuple for doing for defining website variables and color variables, for example. So in order to see what data types you have at your disposal, the easiest way to get that list is just to use Rebol's built-in help. So if you type in help and data type, exclamation point, and there's your list. So let me just scroll up a bit here. So you'll see it's a pretty big list, and there are some that you will immediately recognize, and others you'll say, well, what in the world is that? Some of it looks very advanced and computer sciencey, like closures, for example. But they all have a purpose in Rebol. They can be used in your scripts. Let's see here. I'm just going to scroll down the list a little bit. So that is the list. And so how many data types are there? Well, we don't know quite enough Rebol yet to type in some code and get the count of that list. So let me just drop back into the Linux shell here in the terminal. And actually first let me introduce two new functions. So in Rebol there's a couple of useful functions to find out what version you're in and how you would use Rebol from the command line. The first one is called about, and you can see that gives you the banner that you'll see on display when you first start the interpreter. Also gives you your home folder. There's a little bit of useful stuff in there, especially the build date. That's the one I typically use or interested in. And then the other function is called usage, and this is just some more built-in help. You'll see that you can it'll tell you how to work with Rebol on the command line. In this case, we're only interested in the -- do argument, or in the standard options section there. So let's go ahead and drop back into the shell, and we're going to go ahead and say -- do, and our script is going to just be the command we typed earlier, help data type. And now, since we're in Linux, we can pipe things. We're going to pipe that to a built-in Linux program called WC, word count, and give it the option or the argument of -- lines, because we're only interested in how many lines there are. So if I do that, it returns 64. So there are about 64 data types defined currently in Rebol. So let's get back in R3, and I just want to make sure that there were no other lines in there that might be extraneous. Yeah, so probably it returned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of header information. So it's going to be 64 minus 5. So there's 59 data types to find. So we're done with that digression. Let's go on to where you can find out more information. So as far as getting information on a particular data type, you can just kind of zero in on it, like help on time, and it gives you very minimal information there. Let's do help on logic. That's one we haven't talked about yet. So that's the Boolean. In other language it would be bool or Boolean. Nice thing about logic is you can use different, you don't have to use true or false. You can, but you can also use on and off, yes and no. So that's a little bit of flexibility there. And if you want more information on the data types, best to go to published documentation. So we do have an Atronix wiki with all of our Rebol 3 documentation on it. So if we skip on over here, if you go to the Atronix downloads page and just scroll down, you will see a link to our wiki, and that brings you to the front page of our user guide. So we have a full function reference in alphabetical or category order, as well as the documentation proper itself. So that brings you here. We're interested in data types. So here's a list of data types, and actually there's 57 defined here. That might not be complete from what we just saw, so interesting. We'll have to update that. And that's a good point. The Rebol documentation, it's always a work in progress. This guide is probably about 85 to 90% complete. But just to give you an example of what that documentation looks like, the format. So let's click on the date data type, and that brings you to the page for it. So you'll see this is the general format for the data type section. So between the integrated help in Rebol and our Atronix wiki for the Rebol 3 documentation, those are your two best sources for the Atronix build of Rebol. All right, let's go back to the terminal. And let's look at a few examples of the data type. So we already talked a little bit about logic. So we use our type question mark function from the earlier video. You can see that yes, it is a false. You'll see that those are our logic data types. And we're going to be using these soon in practical examples. The logic data type obviously is needed for conditional expressions like the if, for example. Now let's look at dates briefly. So a function for getting the current date and time is now. I just type in now, and this is what the format looks like. You'll see there's a date component there, a time component, as well as the UTC. And if we get help on now, you'll see that it has a number of refinements. That's the path looking options there, like /year, /month. You can get the time zone, /zone. So if we do now /zone, you'll see that's right there. Now /year, now /month. Notice that it's giving it to us as an integer now instead of the month's name. Get the weekday. So this is a Tuesday, Monday is a 1. A very useful refinement for now is the /precise, which will actually extend what we looked at earlier and give you a precise, more of a precise timestamp all the way down to milliseconds. You'll see it's that component right there, the 0.634979, so the accuracy goes out to microseconds or better. So that is an example of, well, yeah, if we do a type now /precise, you'll see that returns the date data type. So if you're just wanting to work with times, so let's say it's about 9:40 right now. So you'll see that Rebol recognizes that as a time, and we can get that down to seconds. Let's put 15 seconds in there, and then finally you can even go down to milliseconds. So we're going to do 15 seconds and 233 milliseconds into the next second. So it's a very natural way to express dates and times. So I can just also come in here and just say what's today, or tomorrow is going to be the 16th of January, and case is not important, 2019. You'll see it recognizes that as a date. So just a few examples on Rebol data types. And the nice thing in the script, using these in scripts, is that it looks very natural. It's human readable. In future videos, we've run out of time right now, but you can do date calculations just using the data types. But that's it for right now. Thank you for watching.